Good evening, YouTube. Just wanted to make this video as I noticed we've jumped from 5 subscribers to 21. 21, that was a big jump, mainly through that one video, I think, but welcome to you all. I'd love to know where you're all from. I'm not sure how I can check that. If you see this video, perhaps you could pop it in the comments while I just focus the camera. That's a better start, isn't it? So no, big jump from 5 to 21. Thank you to you all. You are my enablers. You are the very reason why I keep allowing myself to buy more and more knives. As you will probably have seen on this channel, I don't usually review lots of high-end knives. I get a bit sick of seeing titanium everything, top super steels with titanium scales. It's all a bit boring. But I did buy myself one expensive slip joint. Most of what I buy is UK legal because I'm based in England. I don't want to spend a fortune on knives that I can't carry. But I did splash out a few months ago and buy this, which is the Viper, Italian made Viper Key. I went for the micarta version because I'm a sucker for micarta. I'd rather have that than titanium. And the blade steel is Böhler M690. So it's one of the super steels. It's one of the best out there on the market at the moment. Great edge retention. I love the machining on that blade. To jump straight into it, this is as close to the legal limit as you are likely to get. If you're worried about getting stopped and getting the wrong police officer, which can be an issue in this country, this is probably not the one to buy. The cutting edge is virtually bang on 3 inches. The blade is actually slightly over from memory. So, you know, you do run the risk of it being confiscated if you're caught. But look at that. I mean, is there a prettier production UK legal slip joint available at the moment? I think that's just gorgeous. That's what I love about Italian knives. You often see this arc over the top. I've shown it in some of the other knives that I've had, but that is classic. Long pointy blades. Obviously it's not particularly thick stock, but you wouldn't want it to be in this. Crowned spines, crowned back spring, which is often the case in Italian knives. It's a flat grind all the way. It's actually very thin behind the edge, probably one of the thinnest of the knives that I own. And it is just gorgeous. I mean, obviously that will cut forever, barely ever going to need sharpening, but I mean the flip side of that, which I'll go into later, is when you do need to sharpen it, and every knife will need sharpening eventually, this is not an easy steel to sharpen. You will need diamond stones. There is no other, you can't sharpen it on anything else as far as I'm aware. And obviously being such a hard steel, you're wearing out your diamond stones pretty quickly. The handle is canvas micarta. I believe it's natural. I'll just get you closer to that. It's the nicest micarta I've had on any knife. This whole thing is just put together so well. It's gorgeous, but it actually feels a lot of micarta like on the Fox Libar, I think this one was. You get the pattern in pictures, but it actually just feels smooth. It almost feels plasticky. This is like cloth. That's what it feels like. It's gorgeous. The back spring crowned, same as the back of the knife. You've got some nice usable jimping. But you will notice the jimping is not actually on the back of the blade, it's on the back of the back spring, which makes sense. Because if you're holding onto the back of the back spring, you're putting resistance against being able to open the blade. I know a lot of people will say jimping is pointless on a knife like this, but it's a nice, if nothing but a design touch. And then you've got this gorgeous file work on the back of the back spring. It's almost like a spiral that comes all the way down. It would have been even nicer to have this over the length of the back spring, but and around there, but it's a lovely touch. It is a gorgeous looking, posh gentleman's carry, they would call it. This is Jesper Voxnes design, which you can tell. I mean, obviously he has done a lot of great knife designs. The first one that I bought was the CRKT Pilar, and the reason I loved that one was purely for its ergonomics. It wasn't the greatest steel, but ergonomically, design-wise, it was fantastic. And this kind of follows suits. It's so neutral in your hand. It's a full 4-finger grip if you grip it behind there. Perfectly comfortable, and that thin back end that you tend to get on a lot of Italian knives, with a slight bit to stop your hand falling off at the back. It's really comfortable to use like that. But if you do want to choke up on it, there is a small finger choil at the back of the blade, so you can choke up for the very fine work that you might need to do. This has one of the strongest back springs, actually the strongest back spring out of any of my slip joints, to the point where, there is no way you could put a thumb stud on here. It's just too strong. It's actually quite difficult. It's doable, but it's not the easiest to get out with the nail nick. And you can listen to that action. I'll shut up for a minute. Listen to that snap open. I mean, that's not going anywhere. I can put pressure on the back of that blade and it barely rocks. I would use that without any fear of that closing. Small things, it has full stainless steel liners. I like to see that. Knives that don't have liners and just have micarta tend to feel a bit cheap to me. They're all perfectly finished, although they do stick slightly proud of the micarta. You can't feel it in hand. Even all the hardware has been nicely finished in this kind of matte silver effect. It all just exudes quality. The reason why I like micarta so much, obviously it's grippy, it has a slightly tacky feel, it ages better. I mean, titanium scratches, it doesn't look as good when it gets older. Micarta is one of those things, it gets better with age, in my opinion. So on the show side of the blade, you have Viper key. And on the flip side, you have the Voxnes logo and M390 in the corner there. And no matter what angle you look at this from, it is pure Italian class. It makes me think it's kind of the Ferrari of the modern slip joint world. Got the Ferrari engine in the M390, and then the body is sleek and gorgeous. I don't carry it as much as I'd like to because I do use it, but I don't want to lose it or scratch it up doing the rough jobs. It's one of those things that gets reserved for special occasions when I want to bring it out and show off. And it comes with, just close this up, it comes with its own leather sheath. It's top quality leather. I saw another reviewer complaining about this and said it wasn't finished very well. Mine is finished perfectly, and this isn't the cheap leather you get with a lot of knives, the shiny little basic pocket sleeves. This is, it's the type of leather that you get on top quality Italian shoes. It's lovely, lovely leather embossed with the Viper logo. Obviously, these are part of the Menaggio group in Italy. I think MKM is one, Lion Steel, others. They're all part of the same knife making area in Italy, and seem to have involvement in each other's companies. I think MKM is a group of them all together that produce knives from each of the factories under that name. But I love Italian knives. I was a bit disappointed with this one in comparison, Fox Bar, but that's mainly because I messed it up with the sharpening. But before I kind of wrap this review up, I did want to make a note that just because something says it has one of the top steels, you know, it has the M390, it has the micarta or titanium or what have you, doesn't mean that everything under that is suddenly inferior. I've noticed recently, I watch a lot of the knife channels, obviously, all the ones from America, people reviewing them in this country, people with far bigger channels than mine, and it just kind of seemed that every time a new steel comes out, everything underneath it suddenly is budget. You know, I'm not paying for that because I'm not paying for S35 VN anymore. S45 VN's out now. I think sometimes we need to remember a bit of context. I bought this one because it was Italian. Again, this is M390. Again, this is micarta. But the two couldn't be more different. I mean, excuse the ugly edge that I ended up putting on this. When it came, it was kind of sharp. I got out my workshop sharpener and decided I was going to put a 17-degree edge on both sides. I mean, before I even got to that, there's no liners in the handle on this one. It's very slim, light. It's barely a 4-finger. It's more of a 3.5-finger knife. And then when I started putting the edge on, I thought it didn't really work with the recurve, and I ended up with this really long, horrible looking edge on it. And I think what that turned out to be is because the blade stock is so thick, it doesn't really come, it's not very narrow behind the edge. It's quite thick behind the edge. So trying to put such a sharp angle on gave me this horrible, ugly grind. I mean, it is very sharp now, which it wasn't before. But it just raised a point in my mind that materials are not everything. Design, the purpose that you need it for, how big it is, the design of the blade, so the thickness behind the edge, the thickness at the spine, all these need to be determined. Sorry about the camera focusing. All these need to be determined for what you actually want the knife for. I think it's far too easy to get sucked into paying high prices for materials without really looking at the details of the knife. So that's my mistake. Wasn't a particular fan of this. I think probably because I put that horrible edge on. I guess as that wears down, I'll move back to a 20-degree edge. This is a bit small to be a main knife for me, so I'll let that wear down. I'll put a 20-degree edge on, and that will probably be a secondary knife for me. But it did get me thinking, you know, that's 70 quid because of the materials. For half that price, everybody's favourite, a lot of people's favourite, the Real Steel Luna. This is only in the G10, you can get a titanium version, whatever. This is an only D2, but let's face it, really, D2 is a really strong steel It has great edge retention. Yes, it's not stainless, so it needs the odd oily rag every now and again, but this has a much more comfortable handle. It has a much more usable blade. It's not as thick, so although it's a flat grind, it's quite thin behind the edge. And a knife is there to cut. You know, this cuts paper, cardboard, exactly the same as that would. Yes, the edge on that might last slightly longer than this, but sharpening that is going to be a nightmare. This not quite so much. So that's what I guess I'm trying to urge people to think about. The materials are not the be all and end all. Get the knife that you like the design of, that is comfortable, that has the right shape of blade, thickness behind the edge, that is going to be useful to you. Don't get sucked into only buying the top materials of everything, because really, who is getting sucked into that? It's people like me. It's people who want to collect all of the different knife steels and all of the different materials. The average working man is just looking for a cutting implement that's going to reliably cut, is going to be sharp, and is not going to be too difficult to put an edge back on when the time comes. That was nice for me growing up. I never had all the high-end steels and what have you. So the people spending the money on these top materials tend to be either the people promoting it are trying to sell them to you, or it's other reviewers justifying the huge amount of money that they've spent on theirs. So there's a lesson for you. If you're going to be collecting knives, don't buy solely based on materials. Go on design, blade shape, what have you, the steel that you need for your particular circumstances. Because it may well be that D2 will be perfect. It will last perfectly long enough. It will be just as sharp as the high-end steel. It'll be comfortable to use, and it'll be 30 quid instead of 70 quid plus. Welcome again to the new subscribers. Sorry if I've been waffling on in this one. I just had a lot of stuff I was trying to get across. So hopefully next time I speak to you, there'll be even more and not less. If we make it to, let's say, 100 subscribers, I will get my face on camera and introduce myself. I hope this is of use to somebody. I hope you enjoyed seeing the pretty key from Menagio. It's my birthday tomorrow, so hopefully I might be showing you something along these lines next week. Hope that's of use to someone. Ta-ta.